football season's coming up now. And so if you don't know what you need to do this summer and in the fall to be ready to show whatever you need to show on game film to be Division One. And so you need to know what you need your game film to look like. It's not just what are you evaluating as now, it's what does your game film need to look like in order to go to the next level. How to Get a College Football Scholarship, a series where we evaluate active high school football players, break down their game film, let them know what level they have the best chance of earning a scholarship in right now, and most importantly, what they need to do to get to the next level. And joining me today is our co-host and our head coach here at Next Play, Brian Overton, who has over 15 years of Division I recruiting experience. We're going to be breaking down a player today, and I just want to emphasize the importance of having your son evaluated, whether it's with us, I don't care, or somebody else, because everything you learn from me, from watching my YouTube, from anything that I teach, it won't work if you're not targeting the right school. So if you'd like to see if your son meets the criteria for us to do an evaluation, I'll leave a link in the description below. So Brian, who do we got today? Can you just give us a brief overview of who we have, and let's jump right into the plays and his game film.
Yeah, so as you can see on the slide there, we got Ryder here. He's a 2026 tight end linebacker.
Good size.
Really good size kid, as you can see there. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I had between 210 and 220, so I wouldn't shock me. I definitely think he's 6'4". So two-way guy, mostly heavy defense. So we'll just let it play here. A little over 5 minutes on the tape, and like I said, he's a heavy defensive guy, so he's playing middle linebacker here. So some things we like, obviously, the size. You'll see it stand out here, just with the players around him. The guys around him, you can tell that he's got really good size. Really like that play here, running the hoop. After he's chasing the quarterback, and what I'm talking about in running the hoop, this is evaluated pretty heavily when you're talking about a stand-up linebacker or an edge rusher, and I'm going to get into that there in a second when we talk about his future. But you'll see here when he runs high, he gets high on the quarterback, he forces him up into the pocket, which is probably exactly what he's coached to do. But you'll see him run the hoop there and get going back vertical to try to get back into play and still gets in on the play. So that's a good position-specific thing that they look at here. That's kind of running the hoop there. See him turn in the corner there with ease. He doesn't slow down very much when he's turning the corner. And that's what we mean by running the hoop, because you do the hoop drill, in practice, where you're literally running around a big hoop, and it teaches you bend like this right here, and it teaches you not to slow down, when you're turning the corner. So he's got good flexibility there. It causes a turnover. I like his physicality for the most part at the point of attack. We did have him move some plays around, like that was an interception, just a heads-up play, catching the ball, and things like that. But as you can see, again, his instincts are good. He can run. He is a little bit of a grabber sometimes. So we, talked about that a little bit as far as getting clean shots. Like this play right here, I felt like he should have just, put his shoulder pad right in the chest here, maybe popped the ball out. Kind of went to the side and kind of pulled him down. So like to see more of that, but you do see some pop, every now and then, which is good. So I think he's a really, really good athlete. We had some plays in here that were a little deeper than we thought they should be, and had him adjust some of those, towards the front and move some of these that we watched back.
Man, I can't tell you how many players that we've seen their game film and we just reorder their game film properly, and all of a sudden coaches are responding back to them.
Yeah.
That's the right plays.
And it's human nature. I tell guys, it's not, people think, there's rocket science and things like that. It's something that we're doing. Now, we are doing something differently than I would say. I have, I just don't say things to be saying them, and I'll let it run here just because it's a long tape so guys can watch them while I'm talking. But we do things uniquely in that we give you a lot of why, and we're moving plays around, and we give you position specifics why we're moving plays around. And we also have experience on our coaching staff that has done it, in real time, on coaching staffs, actually evaluating players. So we have that point of view that we know what plays, to put where to a certain degree to keep that guy watching and have them interested early, right? Again, it's human nature, guys. The more interested you are in a movie that you turned on in the first 5 to 10 minutes of a movie. Now, movies aren't highlight tapes; they're much longer, but that's why I'm using the reference, though. if you're really, that movie grabs you in the first 15 minutes or so, you're going to probably keep watching it. If it totally loses you in about the first 15, 20 minutes, you're probably going to turn it off. Highlight tapes are no different. You really got to get them watching and get them intrigued early as you possibly can. And sometimes it doesn't take very much for them to be interested if you have the right plays in the front. I think we mentioned it before. We had Sylvester Williams that played for me at North Carolina on our podcast not too long ago. Had a great segment with him. And I brought it up, his junior college tape. When I went and showed it to Butch Davis when I was at North Carolina, he only watched about 8 or 9 plays of it. And he was like, this kid's unbelievable. He's really good. We're going to offer him. And to my knowledge, to this day, I don't think Coach Davis has ever watched ever how many plays was on the tape, and I'm probably assuming he hasn't. So to your point,
Now,
it's just
that's not
critically
for
important.
that's not how it always goes. Some
No
scenarios,
doubt.
some
No
coaches, they
doubt.
want to see game film. They want to,
Yeah.
so, but that's the power of what it could be, right?
Yeah. And it's happened to some of our guys,
Well, that's
as
another
well.
thing.
So
That's another thing I think is really important too. Is like it's not just having the right plays in the right order. It's the right plays in the right order from a college coach's eyes, not what you think are your best plays, right? It's what a college
yeah.
coach's eyes. And then I think something even just as powerful is what we're about to get into next, which is what you need to do to get to the next level, because like football season's coming up now. And so if you don't know what you need to show on, like, let's say you are a division, you get evaluated in your Division 2 and you want to go to Division 1. Okay, cool. But what do you need to do this summer and in the fall to be ready to show whatever you need to show on game film to be Division 1, right? And so you need to know what you need your game film to look like, right? It's not just what are you evaluating as now, it's what does your game film need to look like in order to go to the next level. And that's why another reason why the evaluation is so critical. But for sake of time, let's jump into it. What level
Yeah.
currently, right now, does he have the best chance of getting a scholarship in?
Yeah, and real quick, right before I answer that, I want to show you an example just because that was what we're talking. Okay, this plays at 418. Okay, he's in I guess he's probably in a defense, or they don't play a lot of teams that throw the ball a ton, so you didn't get to see him much in pass coverage. Well, here it is right here at 418. I think it's his only clip, but it's a good one. Like he's searching the in breaking route. The guy doesn't break in. You know what I mean? He kind of goes vertical, but he gets a nice PBU there. That needs to be that needs to be in like the first 10 plays or so, just showing his coverage ability and his instincts. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to give a quick example there of one
Yeah,
that's
that's a
way
great.
down in there, right before his tight end plays start, that need to be much higher. You know what I mean? Because you don't have much in there of it, so it shows, that he can actually do it and he's got some awareness. So just as an example of what we're talking about. So again, based on this kid's tape, he's a two-way guy, and we didn't get into a lot of the tight end stuff. He's got some decent tight end stuff there where I paused it. It's only, a handful of plays, so he's primarily a defensive guy, so that's kind of where we're hanging our hat because I think that's what he is at the next level. Somebody, recruiting is a different world. I'm not ruling out the fact that somebody may see that tight end tape or be full at linebacker and think he can play it. But, we're going to hang our hat at linebacker. We think what we sent to him was we can get some real traction, and I think he should have offers right now at Division 2. I think he should have a good handful of offers at Division 2. Again, broken record. Based on how he's doing his outreach and if he's getting the tape in front of enough coaches and he's marketed himself correctly, all that, is hinging on that. But if he is, I think he would have a lot of action at Division 2 right now. I think he is a FCS level talent in that I think he should be targeting some of those schools for a lot of the reasons we mentioned earlier. I really like his size. I think he can run. But and I know that question is coming next. So to answer your question, I think D2 FCS is his target, is his sweet spot right now, because of those reasons. I think to really get over the hump and really start getting some good traction in the FCS, his striking ability, his power, his physicality and violence, with just clean, run through shots. Like I said, he had a shot on the quarterback. I felt like he could have just put his face in there and knocked the ball out, sack, fumble. Some things like that may come from a lot of things. One, just being flat out physical enough. 2, we told him, to work on his power, just getting bigger and stronger, because he's got a great frame, if he's a really strong kid. and some of that stuff can show up next year on his tape. You know, I feel really good about FCS. And the other thing I'll say about that is, so we have him targeting Division II FCS for all those reasons. What I will say about FCS and what I think he can project at, because of his size, he may very well grow into an edge. You know,
Yeah,
at 6'4", 220 pounds. That's perfect, to be honest with you. Like, if I was an FCS D-line coach, you know what I mean, I saw this tape, I'd be asking the defensive coordinator to recruit him as an edge if it was me. Because you saw the things like him running the hoop, you know, changing direction and bending and not slowing down. He's got good initial burst. I think he would have good, like, you know, get off on the line of scrimmage on the pass rush. Now, again, I think, you know, his point of attack, setting the point and things like that on the edge would, you know, have to get better with his power and things like that. But I think he would have good speed to power in the pass rush. And what I mean by that is, in case people don't know what I mean, speed to power in the pass rush is, so the best examples I can give you is like the elite pass rushers in the NFL. Let's just use Nick Bosa or somebody like that, you know, who's not, I mean, he's a physically imposing guy as far as strength and ripped up and stuff like that, but he's not just this huge, long, you know, wide body. But he gets off the ball really well with speed, but he can turn that into power once he engages on the offensive lineman really quickly. He doesn't need a lot of moves and stuff like that. So a kid with this kind of frame that kind of plays the way he does with that, you know, get off and things like that, I think they could teach him really good speed to power to make him, I think, a really good college edge, in my opinion. So it gives him position flexibility. But if you're in an odd defense that have stand-up outside linebackers like that look like that need to be able to run and cover a little bit, he's your guy too. So I think he shows really good position flex as well. But again, I think he should have a lot going on right now at Division II, and I feel really good. You know, if he did the proper outreach, I think he could get some FCS looks at both positions probably next year on the senior tape. Got it.
Okay. All right, cool. What does he need to do to get to the, you know, he's like, hey, I want to be G5. I want to get to the Power 4 level, right?
Yeah.
What does he need to do to get there?
Yeah, he kind of just needs to do everything I just talked about that's going to get him, you know, some momentum in FCS kind of times two, right? Like, because to not sugarcoat it and be fully transparent, if you're 6'4", 220 pounds in high school, everybody that watches the tape needs to kind of see that you're the biggest, baddest thing out there. Like, that's a really good size high school player. And so all those things need to stand out. Like, his physicality at that size and being able to run like that needs to be off the charts. I mean, you know, people need to be, you know, cringing when he's getting ready to make a play. Like, you know, is he going to hurt the kid? You know, type situation, you know,
kind of what you
just to dumb it down, you know, for people.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to stand out that much when you're that size and can move like he can. You know, those plays would really need to stand out. So it all goes back to the same thing, you know, the power at the point of attack, you know, bigger, faster, stronger, you know, in general. But really the physicality would need to really crank up at the point of attack. I think he's got all the physical intangibles. You know, so yeah. I think it just, you know, the physicality is going to really need to stand out more.
I'd love to have him watch, like, you know, watch some of the linebackers in the SEC, right? Watch some of these guys, like, how violent they play.
That are not his size. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even like, they're not as big as he is.
That's what I mean.
So, you know, it's a mindset, really, right? Like, yeah, and I think he needs to work on his power, squats, power cleans, like that type of stuff. But I'd love to see him just from a mindset, just be violent and nasty, dude. Like that is true. So, all right, cool. I love it. Anything else you want to share?
I really like the kid. I think if he can, you know, improve on some of that stuff, you know, on his senior tape, and like I said, I really hope he's got some, maybe at least some interest right now, and is having some conversations with some schools and wouldn't be starting from scratch. I just don't see any reason why, unless none of that's happening, you know, he shouldn't be able to target both of those divisions pretty effectively.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. I like it. I think he's a heck of a player, a lot of potential. And so if you got value from this video and you'd like to watch more videos just like it, make sure to consider subscribe. We'd love to have you here. We post videos, 3-4 videos every single week here on YouTube, podcasts, the whole 9 yards, and we're always trying to provide value. So, and if you'd like to see if your son meets the criteria for a professional evaluation, I'll leave a link in the description below. If not, look forward to seeing you on the next one.